Welcome to New Realities. I'm Alan Steinfeld, and today we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, UFOs, and not just are they here or not, they are here, and what's going on about them. And in conjunction with that, a good friend of mine, James Carman, has made a film called The Hidden Hand, which kind of captures the whole scenario of what's going on with government cover-ups, alien abductions, and the ETs themselves. Hi.
Hey, how you doing, Alan?
Well, nice of you to come alive for television. You know what's so good about this film is that for someone who doesn't know anything about the subject at all, it takes them through the whole unfolding of our interactions with these ETs. I mean, what was your intention in making the film?
Well, I wanted to make a film that worked for the beginner coming to this subject.
Yeah.
So I gave an overview, an arc of kind of like the main themes in ufology.
The main themes being alien.
Well, first off, they're here, and that credible government officials are interacting with them and know about this.
Right.
And credible people from the government and from commercial
Which
areas.
credible people?
Dr. Edgar Mitchell, 6th astronaut on the moon,
Right.
2 PhDs from MIT, a war hero.
Right.
And
So
we have people like Paul Hellyer, who was a defense minister.
The old-timers, they were there and presumably involved in the details of the Roswell experience. Only after I'd been to the moon and had become somewhat of a celebrity and came back, and they had knowledge of the Roswell incident that they were afraid to talk about because they'd been threatened by authority, and they wanted to talk about it, and they didn't want to carry their knowledge to the grave. What they said, yes, the Roswell incident was real. It was truly an alien craft. Some that had observed bodies or been a part of that said, yes, there were bodies involved. We went to the Pentagon, and eventually we had confirmed that they knew that what we were telling was true.
you established that, yes, they're here with credible people, and of course, anyone who digs up a little bit on the internet will know that there's a huge government cover-up. So they're here, it's being covered up,
Yes.
and that they're interacting with humans.
Yes, there's interacting, and there's a whole abduction scenario that's been going on. Usually the interaction starts when the experiencer is young, is a child, and then it extends all throughout their life. And some people have negative experiences, we call these abductees. Some people have positive experiences, we call them contactees.
Right.
And some people, they just can't really know, they can't sort it out that well, and they just call themselves experiencers.
But and I'm into it, and I'm writing about it, I'm lecturing about it, but people still are skeptical for whatever reason because it's outside their worldview, and they say, "Show me the evidence."
Well, the evidence, if we see photos, videotapes of it,
Eyewitness account,
multiple eyewitness accounts, and then we have a lot of documentation, and this is official documentation where people like Nathan Twining, the General Chief of Staff, the highest general in the land, writes a memo and says these things are real, they're not terrestrial, and we should be concerned about them.
And not only that, to know that the Air Force was ridiculing people purposely who came out and said they existed. There was a whole program to ridicule people.
Project Blue Book.
And that was picked up by the media.
Right.
So in order to give people an idea of what we're talking about, why don't we just show the opening sequence of the film that is really well done.
Sure. All right.
Okay, so we're going to see here Richard Dolan introducing The Hidden Hand.
From the beginning of our history, humanity has gone through a non-stop change of its worldviews. The funny thing is that all along the way, we're always convinced that now we've got it right. So today, now in the early 21st century, you'll talk to scientists who will finally admit that yes, it seems to be possible or even likely that there is intelligent life elsewhere in this universe. However, it's supposed to be impossible for them to get here or for us to get there. And really what this is simply a lack of imagination.
I learned long ago never to second guess the relationship with the visitors. It is the most complex, most contradictory, most extraordinary thing that has ever happened to mankind.
I don't talk about UFOs. I can't stand the term. There are no such things. We've known for years what they are.
The government's important because they have the radar systems. They're in a position to collect the data.
People in the national security world are dealing with the fact that this is a lie that has gone now for so long. How do you undo such a long-standing series of deceptions?
I've met contactees in France, in Italy, in Switzerland. These people are telling stories. They're so abnormal they could never make them up.
I remember them putting a needle through my optic nerve, and they were able to put something in the back of my eye.
These things are apparently placed in individuals by an advanced intelligence that has a science that's far beyond our own.
There was a point like 10 years ago or 12 years ago where I got to see what I call my daughter, which was an extraction of me, mingled with their genetics.
I think that they may have been using me to produce hybrid offspring from the time of my first menses on throughout young adulthood.
We put animals in cages. We take chimpanzees and do medical experiments on them. The justification we use, it's no longer just if somebody else uses it on us.
If you're observing the evolution of a planet and you were looking at it as an experiment that you could quantify, you would try to take samples all along the evolution.
And they sent a beam that hit me in the chest with 3 gold balls of energy, which was to restore my memories. That was on a ship that was non-physical. It was more of a plasma ship.
What is the effect on a person's life who's had abduction experiences all of their lives? The effects can be profound on people in ways that they don't even fully understand. It's a club that nobody wants to belong to.
That's a really great invitation to bring people in. What was your thinking behind putting that little sequence together? What were you looking for?
Well, I just wanted to give people little crumbs, little bits that would strike their fancy, and so they would be curious to know more.
That is really well done, and it's for people who are even skeptical about the film. They'll want to watch more to see how their ideas can hold up against this evidence that you've assembled. Now, you talk about the abductee situation, and I have to say, it's traumatic, and you know it's traumatic. And it's something, what I think is so traumatic is that when you meet these beings, they're so far out from what we know as reality. John Mack called it an ontological shock. It means your reality is shocked. I mean, how do we prepare for contact like this with these beings that don't think or look anything like it?
I don't think you can prepare for it. It's too different. But I think once you're in it and you have contact on a regular basis, then after a while you can get used to it and the fear can subside, and then you can start looking at it a little bit differently and just not pure terror.
But do you think when they show up here, we are going to be traumatized as a population?
Well, I don't think so necessarily. I think we'll be shocked. I think we'll be shook to our core because everything from politics to religion, history, science, everything's going to change. But at the other hand, I think we've been, since the 40s, we've been prepared by media, and it's been a big theme in the media. Okay, there's ETs, there's these kinds, there's those kinds, and so it's already in our cultural zeitgeist.
But there is a level of trauma that's involved, at least with the abductees, who I don't think they're necessarily taken against their will, their conscious will maybe, but some people say on another level, it's all in harmony. And being a sort of abductee, I think it's scary, it's frightening, but it's okay. What do you think?
Well, some people say that we have soul contracts and we gave our permission on one level, but I don't really that might be true, but I don't think we know that for sure, and I don't think it gives anyone carte blanche to take us in the middle of the night and do whatever they want to us, and then poke us like cattle, and then put us back into our bedroom with the wrong clothes on.
Well, sometimes, or their sheets ripped up. But anyway, let's show one traumatic scene of a guy who's remembering his. You want to just tell us what we're going to see here?
Yes. This is a guy, I took a hypnotherapist. She's Yvonne Smith, and she's very well known. She works a lot with abductees, and she abducted Jesse Long and one...
She abducted him?
No, I'm sorry, she hypnotized Jesse Long, and she took him to an area where he didn't have memories, and he had just like this one thought that maybe something went on, and she looked into that, she delved into that sequence. And so this is a little segment from that hypnotic session.
And Jesse Long is who?
Jesse Long is he worked in Hollywood for many years as a script supervisor, and he's a lifelong abductee, contactee. He's had an implant in his body since he was 4 years old, and it was taken out when he was in his 40s, I guess, and he said after it was taken out, he started becoming ill.
So this is Jesse Long being under a hypnotic regression to his abduction.
When someone comes to me, they're coming to me because they are troubled about some time missing, or they can't sleep, they can't function in their daily lives. Why can't I remember the 1 or 2 hours? It shouldn't have taken me that long to get home.
I put him in my arms, and he continues to cry, crying. I don't know what to do. What am I supposed to do? He says the other ones that came in with the little gray guy are some more of my children. And the other children are coming up to me. Touching my hand.
That's pretty intense.
Yeah, it's totally intense.
It's so intense that I don't even remember, even though I think I don't remember that trauma. I mean, I don't know if I want to or how to. I think I would like to, but how do we get in touch with that?
Well, this is the thing. I think if you have been taken, you are traumatized on one level. If you can't remember it, like usually people are taken, there's procedures that are done on them, they're put back and their memories are erased, so they have no connection to what actually happened.
Right.
Or there's screen memories that are given to them. But these things start bubbling up and you start getting fragments that maybe something's off, something happened. I saw this huge owl that was 4 feet tall hovering over my head. And so I think it's vital to reconnect with what happened, because the trauma is there whether you remember it or not. And I think if you start remembering it and processing it, then you open up a way to start healing, and that's vital.
Yeah, and you know, there's some studies that said at least 5% of the U.S. population has had some kind of abduction. I don't know what the right answer is. So my theory is that they're taking people, they're taking their genetics to create a hybrid race that actually has our emotional capacity. So I don't think they're here to take over the planet like David Jacobs claims. I think they're here to live on another planet with our ability to create and feel and empathize with the genius of these ET consciousnesses. So they're the best of both of us.
Well, I agree with that. I mean, the hybrids, the result of the genetic hybridization, genetic experimentation that they've been perpetrating for so long, it seems like the hybrids are very emotional as we are. Yes. And also extremely intelligent. They have the same capacities that the ETs do. So it took a long time because most of the children were very sick. And
well, it took them a long time to get genetics right.
Right.
Yeah. And that's why they wanted to be held. Actually, in one of my dreams, I was holding a little ET baby. But it's also the result of, you know, the cattle mutilations are to get the blood. I know Linda Moulton Howe doesn't agree with this necessarily, but I think to incubate these hybrids in these huge vats of artificial wombs so they could develop properly. Don't you think that's what the mutilations are about?
I think it's the endocrine system is what they need. It's the hormones, the blood.
But also for the embryos to develop.
I think it can be for the embryos, but I think also for the greys themselves. They don't actually eat, and they bathe in these vats, and
they
and
take
get
their
their
nutrients through, and that's why they
skin.
smell so awful, because the blood is on the skin. But I think it's also for the hybrids. I think that's why all the soft tissue has been taken from this cattle. And so ultimately, I think it's good. I mean, there might be negative ETs, there might be military people involved, but I think the bigger picture is for the evolution of all of us. I mean, that's...
I agree with that. I mean, it's like if you put pressure on someone, sometimes that's the best way to get them to bring out their best and to evolve and to, like if you're going to the school, the university, if you say, okay, you're going to be tested and you have to learn all this stuff, then it's a way to put pressure on you to do your best.
Right. If they just show up and say, we're here, it's too shocking. And if we do this slow process of learning our own that they're here, is that what you're saying, to integrate it in our psyche?
No, I'm saying that this encounter with ET, it is very shocking on many levels, but it puts a lot of pressure on us. But that pressure will make us evolve quicker.
Yeah, the pressure on us to integrate.
To realize and interact with them. It's not like we can't turn a blind eye to it anymore. And once we start traveling out into space, which we are doing right now, then we are going to be interacting more and more, and so we have to be more ready for these kind of interactions, and so it makes us raise up our game.
More ready on a cognitive, psychic level, level of the psyche. No. So ultimately, we should show that piece about coming into a galactic awareness.
Galactic consciousness. Yes.
Galactic. Is that sort of at the end of the film there?
What's going on is that we have interaction with ET on a physical level, and we're expanding out into space. And so we're going to be in contact with their ships. We already are. And we have to think of how we're going to interact with them in terms of science, in terms of trade, in terms of our government, interacting with their government.
So let's show that part of the film. I think it's really one of my favorite parts because it's hopeful, it's uplifting. I mean, there's been a lot of horror associated, a lot of trauma, but at this part of the film, the galactic, what do you call it, awareness?
Galactic consciousness.
The galactic consciousness, we really have like an exclamation point about our evolution and our galactic evolution. So let's show that.
The amazing thing about this whole adventure we're on imagine the richness of the information that's present in all of the cultures on our planet. And imagine all these cultures entering the galactic community, and every one of these civilizations that reach that level, how much they bring to the galactic community. That is invaluable. So we are reaching that moment, I believe.
The human race has got to go to the stars and go out and take our rightful place out there. And that is our destiny. It's a favorable future where this race will endure and survive. We've already got some of the technology to do it. We talk about planets being light years away. Those guys don't live in that kind of a limited world. They have technology that is so far beyond anything we can even imagine. They don't go from here to there. We've already learned that they can warp space in such a way that from here to there is like now.
Once you let go of belief systems and you start with a blank sheet of paper and you let information and perception and intuition be your guide, your mind starts to open. It's not shutting out alternatives to left brain belief systems, your mind is allowed to expand. You haven't built a wall around it anymore. And as Einstein said, you cannot solve problems with the same level of consciousness that created them.
A new kind of openness and acceptance of the unknown is spreading all through our culture, and nobody knows it. The media still thinks in these brain-dead cliches, good aliens versus bad aliens, when you have lots of ordinary people who are becoming hyperdimensional beings very quietly in their own living rooms. When this kind of change comes to the human mind, there's always the same disconnect. The people in power get left behind.
People are getting inspired, and I see that as messages for us to change as a race, but maybe this generation can't handle it. So logically, who's going to be changing are the children, the new generation of the future. And with the proper education, I do see changing of a race. I see that they could probably handle contact a lot better than our generation.
It's not a matter of if they're here or if it's going to, it's about when.
Right.
So when do you think, I mean, everyone who's been involved in UFOs always thinks it's like this year it's going to happen, disclosure. They're going to come forward, the government's going to admit their mistake. But it never seems to happen. We're always like this. When do you think it might happen?
Well, I think it's happening slowly, very slowly in increments. Like I said, it's kind of preparing the populace to be ready for it, to be interacting. But I don't think the powers that be are interested in disclosure. The military, they have too much power. They have too much access to technology that gives them an advantage. They don't need to have disclosure.
But in a way, this film is a disclosure. I mean, it's up to us because we're disclosing it. And as you put this film out to the population, it's like, aha. And so this is disclosure.
It is disclosure, and it's up to the people that view the film then to kind of embrace it on one level or another.
How to?
Well, I mean, to look at it with an open mind and say, wow, maybe this is really going on.
And if it is going on,
then what can we do about it? What we can do about it is like I said, we start thinking about how we raise our consciousness. We start thinking about how we could make a better society here, because if we're going to be exporting our civilization, we want to have a civilization that we can be proud of, or that other species will also find enjoyable or worthwhile. We were talking about disclosure, and you know, it's not in their interest to disclose it, because they get a lot of advantage out of it in terms of technology, in terms of information. There's no reason for them to do it, and it seems like E.T. is also not interested in disclosing at all. They take people and they wipe their memories and they put them back. So it seems like both sides are not interested in disclosure.
Well, that's the hidden hand itself.
That is the hidden hand, but we are the ones who will be disclosing it. And as we become smarter, as our consciousness opens, then it's going to become inevitable. We'll just put all the pieces together, and it's there.
It is there. I mean, it is right here. I mean, you put the pieces together in this film, but it's also coming out on, talk about how people can get this?
It's going to be on DVD. It's www.hiddenhandthemovie.com, starting the 21st of January 2014. And if you go to that website, you click on Buy Now, and there's a lot of other platforms where you can download it for VOD.
You've gotten great response, right? I mean,
5 awards so far.
5 awards. You really have, I mean, I know it took you a long time, and you really talked to everybody in the field.
Yes.
I helped produce it, which was very nice. And I think if you want to introduce someone to this topic, give them this film and let the evidence just unfold. Because it is here. The evidence is here in this film. So I think we're ready for this change.
I think so too. I mean, it's, you know, you always say, well, it seems like people are more open, and then you feel like they're not. But just generally, there is more openness to it. In just 2 weeks ago, there was a UFO incident in Bremen, Germany, where a UFO hovered above the airport and it had to be closed down. Air traffic had to be closed down for an hour. And
it's happened in China. It's happened in Chicago.
Yes. So it's kind of amazing that we're seeing these UFOs, these creatures, and they're just kind of like saying, "Okay,
we're here."
You know.
But they come and go, So I think it takes time for us, our integration of this phenomena into our psyche. And when they show up and no one makes a big deal about it, then we'll say, that is the integration. But I think we're at the point now where Copernicus was, where he said, the Earth is not the center of the universe. The Earth revolves around the sun. I mean, to most people, that didn't make a difference. They were serfs, they were farmers, they were feudal system. I mean, they lived their life, so what? And for most people out there, so what? It's like, okay, there's UFOs. But I think the byproduct of new information creates more activity to think in different ways. So even though it didn't affect people that the Earth wasn't the center, it led to an age of exploration. It led to Columbus. It led to new inventions. So I think this type of evidence, even though it may not affect people directly, will change our thinking so new acts of creativity, new ways of thinking develop that we haven't suspected before.
Yes, and new technology. I mean, if you can make an argument that, a lot of the technology since the Second World War has come from E.T., and if you look at how quickly things have evolved, it kind of makes sense because we've just been plodding along for thousands of years, and then we got the steam engine, and all of a sudden,
we're on the moon and back.
Yeah.
But I do think there is human ingenuity involved and genius behind that. But the thing is, if these crafts are coming here, they're obviously not using gasoline.
Right.
So they have a technology that is threatening to our system. I mean, that I think is really the big part about the cover-up. It's threatening to the economy of the big corporations. So what do we do about that?
Well, it's also threatening to our view of ourselves because we think we're the top dog.
Right.
We're the top of the food chain and we're the most evolved life form. And when you start thinking, okay, maybe that's not the case, then you start to become fearful because just think of what happens to all the other ones, all the life forms in between.
And think of what we did to primitive cultures when Western man went in and conquered and imposed. So, that's why these films, The Day the Earth Stood Still, and what was the other one where they found out that they ate people? It's like our fear of these greater civilizations projected onto them, and I don't think it's anything to be fearful of, except if you've been abducted. I've been talking to James Carman for The Hidden Hand, producer, director of this amazing movie, The Hidden Hand. It's coming out on iTunes, it's on DVD. I'm Alan Steinfeld for New Realities. You can reach me at my website, newrealities.com.